Speaker, I want to probably not take my full 10 minutes and not repeat a lot of stuff that's been said, but I want to repeat a little bit, which is that this process worked, and it need not have, and it worked, I think, for just about everyone. And when some minor parties contribute to this debate and say they are very distressed about this or that aspect of the outcome, I think the minor parties may also say that the process was nonetheless a valuable one. In respect of the major parties, because we were the ones who had to put this deal together on the third-party expenditure, the $300,000 figure came because Labor and National talked to one another. That was a deal in which parties, the Labor and National Party, both emerged equally unhappy or near enough to equally unhappy, and that's what a negotiation is like. And the people who made it happen were some of the folk that have been mentioned by Amy Adams many of the folk on the select, perhaps all of the folk on the select committee, as well as the minister. And it need not have happened. It need not have happened because there had been an awful lot of bad blood going back to the 2005 election, and Leanne Dalziel has put that on the record firmly again, and I think she's done it really well, and I'm glad she's done it, but it doesn't need to be done again by me. I won't do it afresh. What happened was that we then moved from that point of very serious disagreement over the years with the interim stuff, the Electoral Act being repealed, the 2008 legislation being repealed, an interim regime being put in place, and now the third reading of what will be legislation that will have some durability. So thanks to colleagues from other corners of the House, including the Minister. I'm still distressed and not easily understanding why it is that some of the media think that this is a bad thing, that some of the media think that Simon Power is a disappointment. And it's not just related to the bill. The Minister's a modest man. The Listener surprises me. I read Listener editorials. They're usually a good read. I find them informative. I find them educational. I agree with them more often than I disagree with them, but this one I disagreed with. They started off by saying that, yes, it's true that money can buy elections. Absolutely, it's true. They, sort of gave the argument away at the beginning, but then went on, and I thought a rather specious sort of logic to suggest that because we would all know who these dastardly people were, we, the public, would just rail against their expenditure, unregulated expenditure, and they'd waste their money. Now, that's tantamount to saying that the advertising industry is a joke. And the advertising industry probably does not think that that's the case. They probably do think that the expenditure of good, careful marketing does make a difference to the product that they're trying to back, and that is nonetheless the approach taken by the Listener. The Listener didn't submit. The Listener did not appear. They don't have to, of course they don't. Nor does the Herald, who made similar comments. But I am surprised that they would support a situation in which candidates, as Amy Adams has said, parties are rule-bound during the regulated period, but any other third party seeking to influence the outcome would not be similarly regulated. Now, if they want to argue that the figure's wrong, fine. If they want to argue that some of the other detail around the legislation is wrong, that's fine too. I have no doubt that we have not perfected this first time round. But boy, have we got agreement across the House. The Greens wanted it tighter, the ACT Party wanted it looser, and they'll speak for themselves. I just want to acknowledge those different positions that they have. But across the two main parties, the ones that get called the old parties by the third parties, we now have agreement that we are going to have a regulatory regime for third-party expenditure. And what caused that was, as Leanne Dalziel pointed out, the exclusive brethren. We had some third-party involvement in elections before. A little bit here, a little bit there, nothing too bad. I can remember the SPCA deciding that Michael Laws was a good guy, or something equally unlikely, I know. But that was there. That was there in the I think that was in 1987, 1990, something like that, a long time ago, not needing to be regulated. It was just, a bit unusual. But now it's clear that we've reached a point in our history where some regulation is needed. That concludes my remarks, Mr Speaker, and I just finished where I began by saying that the process for me has been a very good one, and I'd like to thank all of my colleagues who took part in it.
Materia Ture.